They tell a story about a boy who was standing in his yard with a baseball and a bat. And he says, "I'm the greatest hitter." And he throws the ball up and he swings and he misses. Then he picks up the ball and he says to himself, "I'm a great hitter." And he throws the ball in the air, swings and he misses again. Finally, a third time he picks up the ball and he says to himself, "I'm the greatest hitter." And he throws the ball in the air and he swings and he misses again. Then he says to himself, "I'm the greatest pitcher." You know, there's the law of unintended consequences. Sometimes we set out with a goal in life and we end up with results that were completely unexpected. During this coronavirus, we had two objectives. Objective number one, obviously, was to stay safe and healthy and to save as many lives as possible. Goal number two, of course, was at the same time to try to keep the economy and the financial world as strong as possible. And we've been juggling these two goals at the same time, understanding that life and safety is paramount, but at the same time trying to figure out ways to keep people financially solvent. But I think we came up with two unexpected consequences that we could have never envisioned going in, but hopefully coming out, we'll take this with us. The first one is the discovery of Zoom. So many people who never used Zoom before discovered the world of Zoom, not just for business meetings, but for family get-togethers with friends and family. And you know, usually when you had a simcha out of state or out of town, either you could make it or you can't make it. And if you didn't make it, you weren't there. So if you couldn't get to a wedding or to a bris or to a bar mitzvah or to a birthday party, you just couldn't participate. Now suddenly, while no one can go anywhere, you have these birthday parties with 30, 40, 50 people on it, or you have a bris with over 100 people on it. And suddenly, people who could have ordinarily not come are suddenly able to attend. And I hope that when the coronavirus is over, even when we go back to parties and celebrations that are physically together, we'll still be able to keep the Zooms going so that even those who can't ordinarily make it for whatever reason could still participate in the simcha. In addition to that, I've seen many families who have gotten together, just family get-togethers for no special reason, but just to connect the whole family together on a weekly basis. So too, when this is over, let's keep our families connected through Zoom and technology. Now that we've learned how to use it, let's keep it with us as a positive, unintended consequence of this coronavirus. But another surprising unintended consequence is what was captured in a Los Angeles Times headline just 2 weeks ago. And the headline was, "Charity is off the charts during Corona." You know, at a time when everyone's worried about self-preservation, everyone is worried about staying afloat during this financial crisis as well, shockingly and pleasantly surprisingly, charity has been off the charts. And that's what the LA Times article charts, the rise in the amount of philanthropy. And the truth is, I didn't need the article with the charts to tell me that. As a rabbi in Palm Beach Synagogue, I can tell you firsthand, I've seen this in our community. From day one, there were people stepping up and saying, "Can I help? What can I do? Can I visit people? Can I call people? Can I volunteer?" And we've done so many wonderful things together as a community. We've provided Shabbos in a box, and we've provided Seders in a box for people who couldn't go out and shop for their Passover Seders. We provided chicken soup for the soul and challah and Mother's Day presents and kiddush and so many masks, everything that anyone could want. There was people coming and calling and saying, "I would like to give, I would like to do, I would like to contribute." We started a free loan society to help people. These were all volunteers who came forward and said, "What can I do to help?" And this is what the mantra I've been hearing day in, day out from people saying, "Rabbi, tell me what I can do. I want to help. I want to make a difference." And how appropriate it is that we're now in the period from Passover to Shavuot when we count the Omer. And today, of course, is the 31st day of the Omer. One of the ideas behind the counting of the Omer is that on the second day of Passover in the temple, they brought the Karban Omer, the barley offering from the new barley. On Passover in the temple, they brought the Shtei Halechem, the loaves of bread, 2 loaves of bread. And our rabbis say this is what represents the transition from slavery on Passover to spiritual freedom on Shavuot when we receive the Torah. That barley is food for an animal. Bread, of course, is food for a human. And the transition from Pesach to Shavuos is going from being on a level of animalistic instincts, which is what the slave does. He's always just worried about himself and self-preservation and staying alive and survival, to reaching the apex and the pinnacle of Mount Sinai, receiving the Torah and entering into a relationship with God, with the divine and His commandments, which is that we are human beings. We are not just slaves to our own drives and our own desires, but we could rise above our human condition and we could act as free people. And even in a time when everyone is worried about self-preservation, our spirituality and our soul allows us to transcend that and be able to think about others and give to others even at such a time. And you know, today I downloaded on my phone a new app, and I recommend you download it as well. It's called Just One Cassette. The word chesed is spelled C-H-E-S-E-D. Chesed, of course, means an altruistic act of kindness to maybe even someone you don't know. But that is the meaning of the word chesed. And it was started by a Jew in Israel, in the city of Efrat, called Jerry Litwick. And he lost his job, and he said, at a time like this, I want to think about others rather than myself. And so he started a brilliant app where basically you go on this app and it lists hundreds of opportunities to do chesed, kindness. It could be anything from helping a child with his tutoring. It could be helping a mother with babysitting. It could be walking someone's dog. It could be shopping for someone. It could be giving someone a call on or checking in on somebody. Or it could be working for an organization. An organization needs people to come pack food, or an organization needs people to volunteer in the offices. And there are hundreds of organizations and individuals who put up their requests. And through Google Maps, it puts you in touch all over the world with opportunities nearest you where you could volunteer and you could read more about it and you could go into a chat room and talk to them about what is needed and you could volunteer. And it has hundreds and hundreds of organizations and thousands of subscribers already. And it gives everyone an opportunity anywhere they are. Some opportunities of chesed can be done from your house with a telephone, with a computer. Some you can go out and volunteer in an office or in an organization or help someone nearby. And maybe someone down the block from you needs help and you could help them. And what Jerry said was that when he lost his income, he wasn't able to give as much financial tzedakah. And he said to himself, if I can't do it with money now, I have to find other ways to perform acts of chesed. You know, today's a special day. If you look in the Torah portion of Beshalach, it says that on the 15th day of Iyar, which was yesterday, the Jewish people arrived in a place called Sin. And Rashi explains what happened in that location. Their provisions from their leaving Egypt that they took with them, the food, the matzah, ran out. It was completely depleted. Their stockpile, their reserves of food ran dry. And they were left without food. And today, Rashi says, which is the 16th day of Iyar, was the first day that the manna began to rain down from heaven. And our rabbis say this is a very important day because it teaches us a fundamental lesson. That even though today we don't get manna from heaven, we have to realize that just like God provided for the Jews manna in heaven, today too God provides for us everything we have and everything we need. The Jews in the desert, when they ate their manna, they said, Hamotzi lechem min hashamayim, God who sent forth sustenance from the heavens. Today we say, Hamotzi lechem, He brings forth bread from the earth. But even though it comes from the earth, it's just as miraculous as though it came from the heaven. Think about this. A child who was born in the desert, and every day he saw manna raining from heaven. And then one day he comes to Israel, and suddenly they plant seeds in the ground, and he sees food growing from the ground, vegetables, fruit, grain. He say, I witnessed the miracle, food from the earth. But we who are used to seeing food come from the earth, if we would see manna from heaven, we would say that's a miracle. They're both equally miraculous, whether our sustenance comes from heaven or from earth. And that's what every person has to realize. The fact that you have a job, the fact that you have income, the fact that you have sustenance, that is a miracle from heaven, from God. And therefore be grateful for what God has given you. And realize that all of us are not owners of our possessions. We are merely guardians and custodians of what God has given us. And therefore our spiritual mandate is to not just think about our physical needs and desires, but to connect with our soul, our spirituality as human beings, not just as animals who only could think about themselves, but to share our sustenance and to share our blessings with others. And that is the idea of chesed, of kindness, and the elevation of going from slavery to freedom, to be a type of person who can give to others. As Viktor Frankl details in his book, that he witnessed in the Holocaust, that even under the most cruelest conditions, human beings are able to maintain their dignity. And that was displayed by the way people shared their little piece of bread that they had, that they needed for their own survival, but they were able to give of it to others, because that is the trait of humanity. That's what makes us human beings, that we can give to others. And even in this time, when people are most concerned about their own lives and their own livelihood, we find an uptick and an increase, unprecedented amount of acts of kindness and charity and philanthropy going on today as never before. And as I have been beautifully able to witness firsthand in our wonderful community, how many people, whatever they can do, offering to volunteer, to shop for people, to help people, to call on people, to deliver people picked up Mother's Day presents and other gifts that we distributed here at the synagogue, but everyone else was saying, let me take one for my elderly neighbor here and for a community member there, and everyone is helping one another in a way that has been unprecedented. This morning I woke up to hear sad news that my beloved first grade teacher, Rabbi Yosef, passed away at the age of 91 from corona, from the COVID-19 virus. And I have such fond memories from being in his classroom all the way back as a child in first grade, 6 years old. And he was such a beloved Rebbe. He exuded so much love. He was an extraordinary human being, and the memories are fresh as though it was yesterday. Matter of fact, he was such an extraordinary person and such a true devotee of Jewish education that he did something which, when I think back, was so revolutionary and so creative and entrepreneurial in a spiritual sense, that in the summer months, when he had 2-3 months of vacation, he wanted to spread Jewish education. So he bought a little school bus, a mini school bus, took out all the seats and built bookshelves all around it, and he had a mobile bookstore. And he would drive around to Jewish communities where children didn't get a Jewish education, or where in the summer months there was no school, and he would park his bus on the corner with a big sign and have parents come and buy books so they could teach their children Torah and Judaism. But he was my Aleph Beis Rebbe. He was the one who taught me how to read Aleph, Beis, Gimel, a gift and a skill that I'm able to use every day of my life today. But he taught it to me in first grade so many years ago. And I am forever, eternally grateful and indebted to him. But not just the fact that he taught me Aleph Beis, but that he taught me the Aleph Beis with love and with joy. And I could still feel his love and his goodness and his kindness as he walked up and down the rows as we sang out the letters of the prayers, because it was in his class that we learned how to pray. We got our first siddur, our first prayer book. And every time I hold a siddur, Shachris, Mincha, Meir, 3 times a day to pray, I have him to thank that I know how to read. What a gift. And it shows you that even teaching a person Aleph Beis, whatever you help a person with, is a gift that remains forever with them, and they pass it on to their children one day. But you know what I remember the most about him? His sweetness and his goodness. And he used to always come to school with a pile of honey candies, little honey candies wrapped in plastics. And he would walk up and down the aisles as we chanted the words of the prayers, as we were learning how to read. And we would say it out loud and sing the prayers. And if someone was really focused and concentrated with their finger on the place and saying every word, he would put down a little honey candy next to their prayer book for them to take after the class was over and enjoy. And that teaches us a very important lesson that I will always remember. It's not enough to give, but you have to give with honey, with sweetness, with goodness. And if you do something with sweetness and goodness, the memories and the taste of that sweetness last forever. So as we climb higher and higher in the 49 rungs from Passover to Shavuot, let us elevate ourselves, even in times like this, to realize that there's always an opportunity to help others, and we could always give of ourselves. And the more chesed, the more kindness we do, not only are we happier, not only do we make those around us happier, but we transcend our physical limitations, our slave mentality, and we become the human beings that we were intended to be, B'Tselem Elokim, in the divine image. Have a wonderful day.